Hey, what's up, guys? This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and I want to go ahead and talk to you guys about Bitcoin and crypto chart TA. So we're going to get right into it. So Bitcoin has had a couple of volatile days here, and it's been primarily a huge amount of selling going on in the last couple of days, almost about last week or so. Now, Bitcoin has had a difficult time trying to push above this 25K level. And now I previously said that this 25K level is kind of like the key to unlocking the bull market for Bitcoin. And that really hasn't changed. And one of the reasons why I think it's the key to unlocking the Bitcoin bull market is the fact that there are just so many sellers above this area right here. Sellers are stepping in and they are defending this area with some extreme passion. Okay, so as soon as Bitcoin comes anywhere near that, it immediately sells off. And so what we have here in the past couple of days is kind of a rejection of trying to break out here at above 25K. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I also want to go ahead and put this in the proper context. So right now we have here, I drew in this upward trend line here, this upper trend line that goes all the way back until about the start of the year, about the 7th of January. And this trend line right here, it's kind of illustrative of the uptrend of Bitcoin. And right now, we've seen Bitcoin close under this trend line currently. So what that means to me is that this trend line, this upper trend line right now, is completely gone. It has broken this upper trend line. And now what is most likely to happen, in my opinion, is we're going to wind up getting some sideways action and some sideways consolidation. Now, it could wind up being in this range here. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I think that the channel will wind up looking like. It'll probably be something like this, in which Bitcoin trades sideways right here. So in between the support here at about 21.5 all the way up to 25,000. So that's kind of what the channel that you're going to get for Bitcoin to consolidate in. Now, just because Bitcoin didn't breach this 25K level, that doesn't necessarily mean it won't do it. But I do expect that in order to gain enough strength, enough buying volume to push it above that level, it's going to have to wind up chopping sideways for a little bit and consolidating for a little bit. So you can kind of see that it's been consolidating in this little bit of a range here for about a month now. But it's going to take a little bit more time in order to punch through that 25K level. And I am still confident, though, that it will push through this 25K level and then go on to make an attempt at the current, the next level resistance here at about 25.4. And then if that actually gets through, then we're looking at a retest of about 28,000. So that's the potential of Bitcoin and what I expect in the future. But that being said, if it takes out the support line here at 21.5, that right there is going to be an absolutely terrible sign here, and it could mean that instead of that, we're coming back to test support here at 20,600, or that we're going to go back into this chopping region that we were in back in September, in which it goes from about 18 to 20,000. We can chop back into that region. So it's either Bitcoin's going to chop in this region right here, or if this support level fails, then it's going to come back and it's going to chop down here in this support level right here down to about 18.7 in that region. Now, as for Bitcoin, we're also going to go ahead and check the funding rate. So the funding rate I like to use as a sentiment indicator. Right now, the bulls are long and strong in the derivatives market. That has not changed for the past 2 weeks. So bulls are still long and strong for derivatives, for your perpetual contracts. And if we take a look at the open interest as well, this kind of gives us an idea of how many contracts are actually open right now. And so this gives you kind of like a volume for your contracts. So what's important about this is the fact that if you want Bitcoin to push higher, these contracts, the number of contracts that are open needs to push higher as well. And right now it's actually on kind of a downtrend. So what this downtrend is signaling right now is just a weakness in bulls, a weakness in longs. And so far, we really haven't seen any sort of strength in the past week or two. It's been pretty muted ever since it was rejected here on the 21st of February at that 25K region. Now, what's also important to point out is I want to go ahead and take a look at what long-term Bitcoin holders have been doing. And so what we have here is we actually have the Bitcoin spent output age band. So this gives you an idea of when these, in this case, I have long-term holders are selling. So what we have here is from 12 to 18 months. That's kind of the magenta. We can see certain areas where these long-term holders have been selling. And I have it all the way back here to August or to October. But we can see here is that primarily during November, we've had these huge spikes here in which these long-term holders have sold. All right. So we saw that kind of during this trough, we saw quite a few of these holders sell. Now, if we actually take a look at the most recent history of the last 2 months, we can see that we've only had one major spike, and that was about the 25th of January. We saw when the price first breached 23,000, we saw a lot of these long-term holders taking profits at that point. Now, one thing that's interesting about this is that since then, since the 25th of January, we haven't really seen another huge spike here from your long-term holder cohort. And so I think what that's showing us right now is that the long-term holders are just holding on to what their current coins are right now. They're waiting to see if the price pushes higher, and they're waiting to see if we can breach that 25K level. And if we breach that 25K level, I have no doubt that some of them will be taking profits at that point. But again, over the last 30 days or so, they really haven't been selling. In fact, if we take a look at the long-term holder SOPR, this can give us an idea of the long-term holders and whether or not they're in profit. And if you take a look at this, anytime it's under 1, that is long-term holders not in profit. And right now it's at about 0.70. So for the most part, long-term holders are not in profit currently. And so that could also be a contributing factor here, and that we haven't seen anybody sell and these long-term holders haven't sold in the past month or so. They're probably waiting for the price to move up a little bit so that way they can get into a profit. And in fact, if we go ahead and take a look at the previous cycles here, we can see that especially during 2020, that once it breached once it breached 1 and long-term holders were in profit, that was kind of the signal for the next bull market. So you can see kind of a very strong bull market run. And in fact, they even pushed higher at 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. So we can see here that they were the long-term holders were in profit, and they wound up taking quite a few profits along the way during 2020. So that's something I'm looking for from the long term. We definitely want to see the long-term holders in profit, and when that happens, I will make sure I let you guys know. Now, we're also going to go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin miners as well. So this is the miners reserve, and the miners reserve will give us an idea of how many coins are held by the affiliate Bitcoin miner wallets. And what we can see here is that during the last month, we've had a pretty large run-up in the number of Bitcoins available in the miners reserve. And what that tells me is that the miners right now are holding, they're not selling, they're waiting again for higher levels in order to realize that profit. But that being said, if you zoom out and we take a look at where they were previously, like back in January, we can see here that it's still much lower than it was back in January. And even throughout last year, it was also much lower as well. We saw that as soon as about that January rise at about the 12th, we saw a significant number of miners start selling, and now they're starting to refill their wallets with their mined Bitcoin. If we also take a look at the Bitcoin exchange reserve, we can see here that just like with the miners reserve, we have a pretty sizable increase in the number of Bitcoins flowing into the exchange. And so this also tends to point towards a more volatile Bitcoin price as well in the future, as there may not be enough Bitcoin to cover any further demand. Okay, and so speaking of demand, we're also going to look at the network hash rate. And again, network hash rate I kind of use as a substitute for Bitcoin demand. Now, as you have more miners interested in mining Bitcoin, they will push up the hash rate as more processing power is added to the blockchain. And so what we're seeing here is that it hit an all-time high here at about February 19th. And since then, it's come down a little bit. We look at the monthly here, and we can see it's actually come down just a little bit here. So it looks like many of these miners were immediately disconnected from the blockchain, and they were powered off. but it's still not even that far from the all-time highs. So that indicates that Bitcoin demand has still been fairly strong over the last week. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Ethereum charts. So Ethereum, if I draw it up in the same manner, what we can see here is that Ethereum has had a difficult time going above this 1715 level. However, unlike Bitcoin, it looks like the uptrend for Ethereum is still intact, but it needs to hold this 1582 level. If it does not, then we could also see a future in which Ethereum starts trading sideways. And what that's going to look like is probably it bouncing here between, I would say, about 1500. I would say probably about 1500 here and 1700. We'll get some sideways consolidation, some sideways building of strength in order for it to push above 1700. And that's only if this uptrend here gets broken. So we'll look for that and see what happens with the Ethereum price. Now, with our Binance Coin is a lot weaker. It's looking a lot weaker. It did not hold this level at 303 that we outlined before. And now we have to go ahead and move our resistance point down even further. Right now, it seems to have found our support level, and now it found support here at about 300, which is probably where I said that it would definitely find support if it breached that level, because 300 is a nice little round number. But if we take this down even further, what we can see here is probably around 298, or maybe even down at 293. That's what we're looking at for our Binance support. Now, with Ethereum and Binance, these are entirely going to be dependent upon Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is strong, there's a good chance that Binance Coin and Ethereum will be strong as well. But Binance Coin needs to cover this, needs to push through this resistance point at 320. And if it can't, then it will probably come back down and retest here at 294 in this support area right here. All right. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this price action. If you guys think that Bitcoin's going to be able to push above 25K, and if that's really the key or not to this Bitcoin bull market, and what your guys' plans are. I'm definitely curious to hear about what your plans are and how you interpret this, and what specific indicators you're looking at for Bitcoin and other crypto. And let me know what you guys want me to cover. If there's an indicator you want me to look at, or if you want me to look at a different coin, I can definitely do that. Now, if you guys are interested in my most up-to-date information, definitely recommend you to subscribe to my Twitter, or you go and you follow me on Twitter. And I just recently hit 350 plus followers. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you to everybody who's followed me on Twitter. All right, so that's all I've got for you guys today. I'm Cody the Coin Raptor, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video.